So I've been thinking all day long about all the things that have changed in the last year because tomorrow being the first anniversary of this channel. And all the things that weren't on my bingo card, and this show meeting up with 4 other people from the channel that I did not even know like a few months ago was definitely one of those things that was not on my bingo card. So it's like the coolest thing ever, though. I mean, the world is precious and surprising and all of those things. And so thanks, guys.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
And- Go ahead.
We wouldn't be here without you.
Oh, you'd still
Right.
be here. You just wouldn't be on YouTube.
Oh, I'd be on
we wouldn't be-
YouTube, but I'd still be lurking in comments and chats places and not with my face on a screen.
I'd just be in an obscure corner of YouTube. That's where I'd be.
And I'd be,
A more emerging corner.
I wouldn't have had the courage to actually come out of the social network kind of like I totally quit social media and I signed up for YouTube and became a member, and here I am on a podcast. That was certainly not on my bingo card either.
Well, this is not social media. This is TCF.
That's right.
Better than social media.
Exactly.
And doggone it, we're growing this thing into an entire media company. That's the goal. But it's got to start
Awesome.
somewhere, and it's been a pretty good first year. So again, thanks, guys. All right. Welcome everybody else out there. Oh, wow. A bunch of people already. Cool. This is Sidebar, where we talk about something, and then at the end of the day, we solve nothing. That's the rules here. And today we're going to talk about bail. Specifically, the idea came up for us about talking about bail for people like murderers or alleged murderers. These serious crimes, and should they be granted bail as like a protected constitutional right? Should they never ever get bail? Never ever. Is there a public safety thing? How does it differ from different areas? All of that. And it does differ depending on where you go and what the circumstances are. Just a couple of highlights in some reading that I did. In Illinois, for example, in 2023, they had a super large amount of reform there. So they don't actually do cash bail as it's traditionally done in that state anymore. It goes in front of a judge who has to determine kind of the flight risk and the risk to the community, and then it's decided whether or not the person is released regardless of what the crimes are, and it's released with certain conditions rather than like this monetary amount attached to it. And that goes across all crimes. So it just basically becomes up to the judge. And then you have places like New York where if you're accused of a murder, you can get bail. It is possible, but it's up to the judge. They can set bail, they can say no, they can factor in your flight risk and criminal history in making that decision, so a lot more latitude. And then you've got places like Florida where it's just a hard no. If you are accused of a murder, that is a no bond situation. No matter what, you're going to sit until your case is taken care of. So all sorts of different ways that it can be handled, 1,000 different ways this conversation could take. I guess I would start off by saying I have very mixed views on this matter because I believe in the idea of innocence until guilt is proven. So I would think the ability to be released, even if it's on a massive amount of preventative measures like house arrest, GPS, guard dogs at your door making sure you stay in, snipers up on the roof of the house next door, whatever the case may be, I don't know. Something to keep you under control, I can get it. But in the same respect, there is the safety of the community. There's the fear of the families of the victims and what they might have. So very mixed views. So this, I think, for a large extent, is going to be a little bit of a help me make up my mind exercise because I don't know where to go with it.
Can I help you?
I was going to say, Bailey, you usually know where to go with things. So do you want to lead us in a direction here?
I'm the poli-sci guy, so I guess I got to own this part. So let's talk about the Eighth Amendment, what it does. Let's put it into context. Well, this is an amendment to the Constitution, which meant, hey, we have this pretty cool document called the Constitution, and it's pretty good, but I think we need to add some amendments to it. So, uh, part of the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments, here was the eighth, which our union and our states came together and ratified an amendment, and it was, we're not going to be doing excessive, fines and bails. We're not going to be having cruel and unusual punishments from the third branch of government, the Article 3 of the Constitution. We need to put some brakes on too powerful of a government. And so, poof, the Eighth Amendment is born and ratified in 1791. And I mean, I think that's a good way to, because Dan, you know where I come from. I'm kind of like a contextualist, and I kind of read the law by the letter. So that's kind of my main thrust of where I'm going. But I'm gonna pause there.
Okay. To pick up where Bailey was going
Go
with
for it,
that
Ashley.
Reform Act, well, it does prohibit excessive bail. That's literally what that Eighth Amendment details is excessive bail. For instance, you can't give excessive bail to criminals and expect them to pay that. However, it does not require bail to be granted
Correct.
in all cases. So that is up to the states. It is up to those judicial bodies of each state. So court can't deny bail if it would endanger others or obstruct justice is usually how most states come about in the bail scenario. Now, in those cases, judges look at the severity of the crime, the strength of the evidence, the defendant's criminal history, the potential danger to others, and the risk of fleeing the jurisdiction. So, all those things the judges have to keep in mind in order to grant bail. Or if any of the defendants don't meet those criteria, or they fall into one of those buckets that they'll violate, they usually don't give bail to those people. And so, in my opinion, I think it's okay as it is because most murderers fall under the what I listed. They either are a flight risk or of some nature, or they have a criminal history sometimes, or they have a high severity of crime. So, but on the flip side, or how I personally feel about it, is that intentional murder should not be granted. I have a thing that if it's intentional murder, like first-degree murder, I honestly don't think it should be granted just because of the intent of the crime. But if it's like second-degree murder or murder that wasn't intentional, it was like a manslaughter case or something, I would think that could be bailable, in my opinion.
Well, immediately, Ashley, the question that comes to my mind isn't intent part of the allegation?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
That still has to be proven.
Yes.
So you could throw out an allegation of intent if you wanted somebody, under your scenario, if you wanted somebody to not get bond, but later decide that you can't or won't prove that allegation, but still lock them up that way. So it kind of sounds like a little bit of a backdoor loophole under your scenario to keep somebody in. Yeah. So, I don't know how well that holds up either, but I get where you're going.
Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm heading mentally, just because I feel like intent and the whole the reason why another person was killed should be taken into account as well when considering this.
Well, the reasons though are still allegations. I guess that's the thing. Nothing's proven.
Right. So,
It's
like you
complicated,
were
isn't it?
mentioning Florida, Dan, with them not giving bail to anyone that committed murder, that type of thing. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like that, but in a way, maybe a little bit lower than that.
Okay.
At risk of filibustering, but just it's really on point to what Ashley's talking about. I wanted to save this for later.
Okay.
So are you telling me, Ashley, and this is for everybody else on Sidebar, somebody who was charged with 2 counts of first-degree intent homicide, first-degree in reckless homicide, 1 count of attempted first intent to commit homicide, 2 counts of reckless first-degree homicide, and first-degree reckless endangerment. Are you saying somebody who's been charged with those, who goes before a judge, they should not get any bond at all and should just be locked up awaiting trial or a plea?
Yes, and that is mostly because of public safety.
I'm
Bailey.
going to not bury the lead. That was Kyle Rittenhouse. He was found not guilty by a jury of his peers on all these charges brought. And you know how I feel about juries. I always 99.99% with them. And I thought they got it right based on how the state brought it. But hey, in your scenario, that guy would have been stuck like Chuck this whole time and waiting for a trial. So instead, what he got was $2 million bond for what he did for all those charges. I found this out. His lawyers, the firm, put up $920,000 of their own money. They started a hashtag Fight Back Foundation. That foundation started by his attorneys because, again, we talked about that campaign and legal strategy thing. They raised $925 crowdsourcing.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say
then
a lot
an
of it was
actor gave another
crowdfunded.
$150,000 to help him make bond. That's a completely different topic that I want to bring up later. But in your scenario, that kid who was later found not guilty, because we like Dan was saying, you're innocent till proven, right?
Right.
So, you know, he was accused of first-degree murder not once but like 4 times, and
I understand that. And I think that is the flip side to my argument. But the thing is that I think public safety comes first in a lot of this. And that's kind of what I'm thinking in my mind. I understand that somebody can be convicted, but they also have a right to a speedy trial. So I understand. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I
no.
thought you were done.
No. They also have a right to a speedy trial. So I just don't. They're going to have court and have their day anyway. I just don't think they should be out on bail while that's being sorted out.
Well, does a $2 million crowdsourced bail protect anybody? 'Cause
that was my other point. Is it really bail if it's crowdsourced? Because the point of bail is to ensure that there's compliance, that
Even if
somebody
it's
shows up to court, that somebody follows the legal rules, that they're not going to go out there and keep breaking the law. It's a contract. So is it really bail if your law firm could come up with almost $1 million of their own money?
And a counterpoint here, if you're someone with a public defender, that public defender's not going to be able to pony up, that 10% or any of that component. So there's, at the risk of using a, word here, there's a bit of a privilege there. If you're someone with a high ticket lawyer, your own attorney, you're immediately at that advantage. Whereas someone with a public defender is not going to have that or anything and make bail. Their parents.
That's a good argument. I never thought about the attorney putting up their own money.
I had never heard of that happening until Bailey just mentioned that. And if you can't see the smoke, there's probably smoke coming out of my ears. I've never.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy and
That
extreme.
feels like it's crossing so many ethical boundaries, but what's done is done. I hate
That's extreme. Typically, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, clearly.
And and I still fall behind my points.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with Kyle too is he fully benefited from being such a high profile case.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that was a law firm that knew they could make their name on that because they're
Remind me where he
my-
was tried. Was it Wisconsin or was it?
it was Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah, it was right across the Illinois border where it happened.
Okay.
But he, he, I think in the grand scheme of things, in my mind, what he had was a self-defense situation. But looking back, especially at how that kid acted after the fact, once he was found not guilty and everything, an incredible douchebag. So,
Beside the point, but yeah.
Beside the point, but he got lucky because it was such a high profile situation. And if he hadn't been in such a high profile situation, he would not have gotten bail. He probably wouldn't have gotten as good of attorneys, and he probably would have been found guilty.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different can of worms.
Yeah,
there.
I just don't think bail is a right, unfortunately.
Well, it's certainly not. Yeah. It's
So, like I said, I think it's up to the judge's discretion for sure, but I do not support people with or potential malicious ideas to be out potentially harming the community.
Damn, Ashley, you're tough. Damn.
Michael, you've been completely silent. What's going through your
What
mind?
do you think?
Well, I mean, so a lot of state and obviously state constitutions, and of course the U.S. Constitution does have various provisions against excessive bail. And in some states, legislatively, they pretty much always have to set a bail, with very few exceptions. So that's why sometimes you see these, $2 million, you're out on $2 million bond, So, that's, I think just saying no bail, I'm kind of, on Dan's point that he brought up at the very beginning is that we still do have the presumption of innocence. And if you have somebody that comes before you that has no criminal record and they're charged with murder, I think just to flat out deny them bail and say it's for the public safety is a little strange, because this is a person that, again, walks in with the presumption of innocence and has not, we don't know what's happened. There's, just to say, oh, no bail at all, just, it seems very counterintuitive to the way our system is supposed to work. You can't say, oh, you're presumed innocent, and then say, okay, well, you get to sit in jail until we figure out whether you are or aren't. That kind of seems like, well, you're actually kind of saying I am guilty, but, maybe I'm not. I'll get to prove it later, which is sort of the opposite of innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
So that now, if you get somebody in there that has a long, I think there's context matters, right? And circumstances matter.
Yes.
And while there's, I think if somebody comes in there that has a long list of violent past, that might be a different story. And, I know you can say, well, even somebody with a violent past still walks in with the presumption of innocence. Like, yes, but now you could make a legitimate case for public safety because of this, this history.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Past performance is indicative of, future outcome or whatever. So that's kind of how I feel about this. I still think bail, is it a right? Well, I mean, excessive bail is something that's protected by state and the federal constitution. So I sort of think, well, I wouldn't call it a right. It kind of is, depending on your state. So that's kind of where I fall on this. I do, I hear what Dan's saying, though, that, this is one of those things where there's an argument to be made either way. So
I can bring
guess
up.
where
Go ahead, Tim.
I guess where I'm lost here and where I just don't know what to think necessarily is that I don't know still how it is that bail is going to make anybody safer or change what is in somebody's heart or anything
Right.
else. Because so you've got Big Mo, who is accused of a murder, so they arrest him, they bring him in, they charge him, and they give Big Mo a $750,000 bail.
Right.
Somehow he makes it.
Right.
Well, if Big Mo decides he's still going to go do another murder, he's going to go do another murder, because if he truly is a murderer, he doesn't give a damn about that $750K. Not really.
Correct.
we saw this exact scenario in Judge Stevens' court a few weeks back. He was a younger kid, Dan's favorite kind of cases, younger kid who was accused of very serious crimes. And then while he was out on bail, his mother, I guess, remember, this is the case where the mom, I think, put up like collateral, probably her house. And
She lost it, didn't she?
yeah, and then he went out and he decided to do it all again. Same exact scenario. So that was a situation where, and I don't know what his past was before the initial setup, but it sounded like he had already accrued quite a criminal history at a young age. That might have been a case where a very, very high bail, but even then, well, they did put a high bail. I think they put a $250,000 bond on him.
That's why she had to put the house up.
Yeah. So, it's one, and Texas is one of those states where, having no bond is pretty hard to do legislatively. So I don't know, that's one of those that I don't know what this situation, what the right answer would have been there. But yeah. So we have seen that situation where Big Mo, or whatever that guy's name was, I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Mo.
Yeah, it was Little Mo. He went out and did his thing. He didn't care because it wasn't even his money. It was his mother's money.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
And
if I can pick
Yeah.
on Ashley a little, Mo, on her argument
Nice.
Go ahead,
and
go
position,
Well played.
that Daryl Brooks guy, we all remember him, right? He was the pro se guy.
oh
One
yeah,
that ran over a bunch of people in a parade.
Yep.
He killed
Right.
6 people, injured
Oh,
more than
no.
60. Total piece of garbage. Get this. He was released on a $1,000 bond for, guess what? Driving over his girlfriend in the same SUV. He was released on $1,000 bond in error. And the only reason they found out this was an error was because now he got picked up for doing the exact same thing. He gets hauled before a judge. The judge increases, of course, his bond from 1,000 to 5 million. So to push back a little bit and to validate Ashley's position on this, the judge looked at the severity. Well, this is far worse. More than he's driving through crowds, not just going after one person. That's bad enough, but you get my point. I think you said the strength of the evidence. Many people saw this. We know this guy kind of basically did it. We just have to give him his due process. Clearly, he has a history of doing this, so we need to lock this guy up. So we're going to raise his bond a little bit. And fleeing, the risk of fleeing. I think that risk went up after doing an egregious crime like this. So I guess I would say I don't really see a problem from my perspective. Not that I'm saying you're wrong. I'm just saying from my perspective, my positionality.
Well, in that case, Bailey, it sort of goes back to what I was saying. There was a criminal history there. He's already shown that he's a danger to the community.
Right.
So judges, so judges have, obviously are obligated to also protect the community. They have to weigh individual liberty with the safety of the community.
Yeah.
And in that case, the safety of the community definitely outweighed the individual liberty there.
And nobody's going to come with a hashtag save Daryl. Nobody's lawyer's going to be trying, because everybody knows this guy's a dirtbag. So he, basically, by making it 5 million, she knows he's going to be locked up. So
although in that case, Why not just set no bond? Unless maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if you could
because some freaking douche lawyer is gonna bring it to the federal court system and say that there's a constitutional violation of my client's rights to
I don't think
excessive
so.
bond.
Counterpoint, he'd already this the second time he had been in on this. I think.
Well,
I'm trying to think of how I want to say this, but like, no, basically.
Well, I mean,
I agree. Some douche lawyer is going to try it, but I don't think he's got a leg to stand on.
Whether it's no bond or $5 million, it's pretty much the same thing for somebody that's basically indigent like that guy. So
that's why a judge, I think, in the district level just says, "I'm not going to go that far. I'm just going to set it at 5." And I'm not really.
I mean, why not just make it a bajillion? Just make up a number.
Making up numbers.
$11.8 million. All
right.
right.
That brings up the question of what is considered excessive.
Yeah.
You know,
Right, because you're not. Yeah, because on the federal level, you cannot set excessive bail.
But on the Ashley level, if I happen to be accused of first-degree murder, you're like, no bond. You sit there. That's excessive. That is excessive.
So we're talking about excessive bail versus no bail versus your right to bail versus public safety, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I never thought that I would utter these words in my existence. So pay attention.
Go ahead.
As our discussion is going on, I'm starting to almost a little bit agree with the state of Illinois, where it's not a cash consideration.
Hold on.
Because I know it's weird.
What?
I know. But honestly,
let's see if it froze over outside.
I'm wondering, raining, but not snow. But I don't know what difference if we're looking at a capital murder, bad crime kind of situation. I don't know what difference money makes at that point. I think it honestly has to just become a matter of public safety.
Yeah.
Is this somebody who has committed other crimes? Is it somebody who has a history of violence, whatever the case may be? Or is it just somebody who had a speeding ticket once upon a time and this is a brand new thing and we have no history on the person? If you got history on the person, I think you just say no bail, you're done. Because putting a dollar amount on it could almost be more problematic because as a point we've made before, the 8th Amendment does not guarantee you bail. It guarantees you won't be handed an excessive bail. So just don't hand them bail at all, and then you don't have a problem with the 8th Amendment.
Yeah.
But if the person is not have a history that would lead you to believe that this is Big Mo who's just going to go do another murder because... then I think you got to put them on restrictions, house arrest, ankle monitor, the sniper on the building next door, all that kind of stuff, and let them out. I think it almost has to be one or the other, rather than a ridiculous amount of money that you've got to be a famous case like Kyle Rittenhouse again to actually have enough people pony up to make it happen. And then what's the point?
And whatever you do, you have to honor that. Whatever they decide. So if it's bail or if it's not, they are setting that precedence in that state. So whatever they decide, that's what they have to go with too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is, but yeah, maybe how Illinois does it is actually it should be one or the other. Then of course we get into the discussion of, well, here we go again. Does this favor, the wealthy? Because people that can afford a high bond, to them, does it really matter? Just like when we set these kind of high speeding tickets, people will argue, well, that just means that if you're wealthy, you can just go and speed. And if you're not, you can't. The system is already kind of skewed toward, the idea that people that have money kind of get to drive they're the ones driving the boat. So, is that inherently fair when if you're going to set a bail to set it high and then just be like, well, you can't get out. Oh, actually, as it turns out, no, I'm actually kind of wealthy, so I can. So middle finger to the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that, Michael. And taking a few steps back from us in general from the United States. I also looked up how other countries do it across the world because I was curious. So the UK can refuse bail if the defendant poses a substantial risk of committing further serious offenses. That's the general UK law on this stance. In India, the Supreme Court ruled that bail in murder cases should be granted only in exceptional circumstances. And in Canada, those charged with murder are presumed to be held in custody until proven otherwise. So that's us. Now that we're talking about us, that is us relative to the other countries. So I don't know if that shines some light on it, but other countries have been thinking about this too.
Well, there are lots of other countries where you are guilty until proven innocent.
That's true.
That's
the only really difference between us and other countries.
Yeah, it's kind of a big difference.
Yes.
Like sort of it's maybe the biggest difference of them all, because it's a lot harder to prove you didn't do something. You know, the old saying, you can't prove a negative. You know,
unless you're in statistics.
Right.
Sorry.
Well,
Thanks, Bailey.
My null hypothesis, I have to prove those.
right.
But setting a high bail, are you really thinking that person is innocent though?
It's
Well, if you're not
about-
thinking they're innocent, then why set a bail in the first place?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
argument that I come back to.
That's what I'm
Why are we-
thinking.
Why
To
are
me-
we doing that?
Because like you guys were kind of talking about, like, is it really kind of like people who are high wealth and they get like a $2 million bond that none of us could ever afford, and we can't crowdsource this kind of stuff, and these people have sort of this privilege. But I look at it differently. Like, they're putting up something that would cost them a lot, and they would forfeit this money if they fail to show up. If they fail, or they fail their conditions, well, you know, then they get locked up and they lose that money. So like, yeah, a high wealth person probably doesn't want to lose $2 million in cash assurity, you know, like that would, I don't know, unless you're like Elon Musk or something, but for us, you know, yeah, like I don't want to lose, like I have to go to a bail bondsman. That gets me to the other topic, is like this whole bail thing is kind of a racket too.
But
It's like,
if that person
Yeah.
is guilty, if they are found guilty,
well, then they have to mind their P's and Q's.
if
stay
they
at
are
home.
found guilty, they know they're screwed anyway, because they will have probably life in prison if it's first-degree murder, or life in prison, pretty much.
Or I kind of hope that I did a crime and my defense is going to put on a really great defense.
Yeah, I was just
And
about to say, I have a high dollar lawyer that can spin and spin and spin.
That goes
And I
back
got
to
a
my.
chance to stay out of
Yeah.
jail. I mean, that gets me to my other point. It's like,
O.J. Simpson.
how much would you guys pay for your liberty? Let's say you committed the crime or you didn't. You're charged with something very serious. I mean, how much would you guys pay? I know I would probably pay a lot to be here in my room and still being able to do Sidebar, and I just maintain my employment and I can go about my life. But so long as I zoom into court or I get my butt to court and I go through the process, I would pay a bail bondsman like, I don't know, $80K, and then he's going to charge me a certain percentage of that, which probably would be thousands, but I would pay $1,000 or $2,000 for my freedom. And
Well,
by
if
the
you're
way, my
getting out-
trial probably isn't going to be for a year anyway. You know, how we see these trials getting pushed back and pushed back because they're like,
Multiple
oh, no,
years.
we got a capital murder that just came in Judge Boyd's docket. Now we got to push all that calendar back. So all those guys who've been waiting in jail in county because they're broke and they don't got friends with, you know, hashtag money and all that stuff, and they're sitting there like stuck like Chuck. I'm out there enjoying my freedom for at least a year and a half before I finally get a trial. And who knows? The state might screw up, and you know, I went on a technicality.
Yeah, the problem, of course, though, is especially if you don't have the means, if you're throwing all the money that you have to get out, then you don't have the money to mount the defense.
Well, I could still be working at home. I'm not stuck like Chuck in jail, and I can't work. At least I could.
In theory.
Maintain-
I don't think
Yeah,
any
in
of us have
theory.
a
In
job
theory.
that will cover one of these high-priced lawyers that you would need to get out of some of these charges.
Well, I mean, I would have to I just,
Yeah.
superstar.
You're doing
hashtag
great,
superstar.
Bailey.
You're gonna have to come up with that hashtag money.
Yeah.
He put his nerd before
Or
word.
start a YouTube channel, and then you got YouTube money.
There we go. All right.
Yeah. I mean, you know, big time money from YouTube.
Oh, I just
And
Can afford one of those jailhouse lawyers.
in high profile cases as well. This is a side point that I wrote down, but I feel like in high profile cases, the public is sometimes against that defendant, and then putting them in prison and not allowing bail might help that defendant because they won't feel the retribution from the public as well. And that was something I was thinking of as just an afterthought, because the public might come after them on the outside, so that defendant feels more in danger than if they were in prison or something. But that's just an afterthought. That's just a side point. Sidebar.
sidebar to the sidebar. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
High profile cases, and of course we've talked about that here on Sidebar. It's, of course, there's a lot of wild cards there. You know, the nature of the celebrity themselves, how popular they are, their general, view from the public. Remember, O.J. Simpson was a very popular individual.
Yeah.
Anybody that was obviously a little older, will remember his career in the NFL. And then, he went into, he was in the Naked Gun, and, people loved him. He was a fairly beloved person in general in the public. So, the perception kind of at first was, we can't believe it. Now, we all saw the slow speed chase and, and the white Bronco and all of that, and how that all got going. And some people immediately started to change their perception even then. But, initially it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for people to come to the idea that a person of that high profile can possibly be a murderer, especially somebody that they like. So sometimes these high profile cases, they're going to get, and we've sort of talked about it in another episode, but the reality is they get different treatment. Whether intentional or not, it happens. And sometimes the bail in those situations is, it may be treated differently. A judge can say, oh no, and it never happens. And, justice is blind and all of that. But that's not always the reality. So that's sort of that's kind of the high profile aspect of it.
I feel like we have less answers during this one than we normally have, and we never solve anything.
Well,
But
this is one of those, because here's the problem. If you say, all right, everybody should get some kind of bail, and it shouldn't be excessive. Well, what is, then we have to get into the nuts and bolts of what is excessive, because what's excessive to you may not be excessive to me. Yeah. And,
I think we hear that every day in some of these, these arraignment sessions. I'm set $1,000 bail for you. I don't have even $100 to make the 10%. Like, that is excessive for that individual. Whereas, everyone else, people, okay, I'll call my mom. She'll get her credit card out and it'll be fine.
It's not even their money. You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Or like I'll call my wife and it's from the joint account. Whatever. Point being, like, what is excessive for one person is, just grocery money to another. What is excessive?
I have to add an asterisk to that.
Okay.
There also has to be a level of deterrence from the bench, from the judge, from the courts, that this type of crime, alleged crime, comes with, well, you did this, aggravated, it has a gun allegedly, and you were robbing the Circle K or the whatever. I'm setting your bond at $10,000 or $15,000 versus $1,000. So I want to put a tiny little asterisk on there that there is a deterrence factor in.
No, I understand that.
Right.
But
I understand
mostly,
that.
well, but hold on, because bond is not necessarily supposed to be used as a punishment. It's supposed to be used to ensure that you appear in court.
Let me clarify the record. They have to place the alleged charges into context. And
Right.
so that's where they set bond. So it's not, you're right. It's not a punishment because this is just, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you
Because
for
they're
clarifying
not.
that.
You
Apparently
called it a
they're not guilty yet.
deterrence, though. And I don't
Well,
know
Right.
if
there
it's
has
a deterrence
to be,
either.
yeah.
Other than it keeps him in jail and deters him from going and doing another crime.
And it's usually not their own money either. Or sometimes,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Maybe
Yeah,
I
you know,
did misspeak. I did misspeak on that. That's not proper. That was not proper because it's not supposed to be deterrence. You're right. That the bonds are individual. They're not. You're right. Yeah, that's not
I don't know.
supposed to be.
You know, I'm in a weird spot right now. The more we have this discussion, the more I am lining up under the state of Illinois,
Yeah.
which is, you know, out of the 50 states is probably somewhere near the bottom for me.
Questionable.
But
No, I agree with
now,
you, Dan.
now I don't know how well they execute it there. Something tells me probably not too well.
Probably not well.
But the theory behind it, that assess the danger to the community and then make your decision, either you hold them or you don't, is making
makes
more and more
sense.
sense to me, because I don't see how the dollar amount deters anything,
Right.
whether we're talking about a murder or we're talking about a petty theft. I
Right.
don't see where the deterrence is, because I forget which one of you just said this, but one of you said that it's usually somebody else's money anyways.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. So I don't know what's the deterrent for the person. Again, going back to Big Mo, if Big Mo ain't gonna put up that money, but assuming somebody does for him and he gets out, if he decides he's gonna do another murder, he's gonna do another murder, and he's not gonna care.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
If we're really concerned about public safety, and if that's the driving factor, then it should be a one or the other. You either do or you don't. Let's not play around with it. So I kind of, crazy as it is, Illinois, this is one of those times where, the broken clock is right twice a day, and maybe their justice system in that state is a little off, and a lot of things in that state are off.
So it's a lot off, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I am the master of
This has all
understating
kinds of
things.
land stuff. Yeah.
But I
Consider
gotta
that the
wonder,
understatement of the century.
I mean, again, you have to debate how well it's being executed, and it would certainly have to be executed quite well for it to work. But I'm not sure what better system, what better answer there may be, and I'm not sure the monetary answer makes any sense. Again, whether we're talking about murder one or petty theft,
if you had somebody that committed like 8, 9 crimes, 10 crimes in a row,
then you hold them.
right?
No.
What? No.
Why? Just because there's 8 or 9, you just hold them automatically?
Maybe.
All right.
Again, the 8th does not guarantee a bail.
Okay.
Yeah, bail is not
Guarantees
guaranteed.
you don't have an excessive one.
Of course. And there's charges like, because I was looking up, has anybody who's been charged with like legit kind of terrorism been given a bond? And I did some very slim digging, so don't hold me. No. The answer is no. Judges, federal judges, because usually at that level you're at the federal. I can swear now it's 44. You're at the federal fuck level. So buckle up, Buttercup. There you go, Barbara. 44. I made it.
She left.
Oh,
You wasted it.
But what?
No, judges are not going to not get, if you are, back in the day, it was Al Qaeda. That was like the, hot word of the fear level thing. And there was like
Boston
orange level
Marathon bomber.
and red level of terrorist threat. And, everybody was on edge. No, that type of person was not going to get a bond. But it's just, I understand where you guys are coming from, where it's like, does the dollar amount really matter? And I think the only enforcement that the Article 3 of the Constitution, the judicial branch of the Constitution, since they don't have a sword, they can't really, they don't have an army, they can't, enforce certain law, they interpret law. Of course, they have certain powers with contempt and that sort of thing and civil things. But when it comes to, I'm losing my thread, darn it. They can, the third branch of government, where was I before that?
Penalize them monetarily. Is that where
Yes.
you're going?
So the only thing that thank you, Ashley. The only thing that that branch of government has is I can come after your money and your property to try to hold you accountable to making sure you show up to court. The only thing I could really go after is your stuff and your money.
Or your freedom.
And or your freedom in very limited ways, and we've had discussions about that in contempt, civil contempt, criminal contempt. So I feel like we need to have that monetary kind of thing. We can have a debate on like, what does this charge? What should bail be for this? And what should bail be for that? Should we even be giving bail for any of this? And if
we talked about this, about how bail across the board varies so much even on the state level too.
Well, from judge to judge.
Yeah.
I mean, remember,
person to person in front of the judge.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that how many times? And, in the chat, Michelle brings up the topic of manslaughter. And, this got me thinking, of course, because, again, we go back to history, right? So let's say somebody is a drunk driver. Somebody killed somebody, driving drunk, or they killed multiple people, and they had a history of driving recklessly. And I can think of several examples from right here in good old Phoenix, Arizona, where this has happened, and a person is out. They're free. They're out walking around. And yet, we're going to sit here and say, well, we're here to protect the community. There's definitely a level of hypocrisy. There's, now, of course, on the other hand, somebody that is in this country illegally, for example, we go ahead and we say, all right, you're held on no bond, because even though that person hasn't necessarily had a trial to determine if they're here illegally or not, but we suspect that they are, there's all these different factors. And I wish, we should just boil it down to hold them, don't. And, like do or don't, crap or get off the pot, let's figure it out, I'm with, what, Dan, you talked me into this. Illinois is the way to go on this.
The funny thing is everybody will tell me that I'm the crazy, wacko, right-leaning conservative guy, but here I am arguing with the state of Illinois. And arguing for, rather, the state of Illinois.
I mean,
not only that,
nothing else makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Nothing else makes sense to me. And, we started out talking just about, like, bail for murderers, but I'm on the whole thing. I just,
because
either, poo-poo or get off the pot.
Well, because that's the thing is, yes, our main focus was on murderers, but when you start there, you can't just keep it there, because the whole system has to be obviously ratified, or has to be changed. It has to be radically changed, I think, from where it is right now. And I know every state has the right to do things differently, but then therein also lies a situation like, boy, we talk about, how many times have we talked about it in this channel, joking, although not really joking. Hey, if you want to commit a crime, do it in Wisconsin or Michigan. I mean, that's like, hey, that's prime real estate to commit crimes, folks, because of the way that they have their system set up. And that includes their bond system. Michelle and I, one of the things we watch a lot, we watch Code Blue Cam and these other things, from like Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And we see all these guys, they go on high-speed chases and they do all this crazy stuff. They have these long histories and they get $1,000 signature bonds or $2,500 signature bonds. And we just laugh every time. We're like, okay, this is a high-speed chase. The guy is drunk. He fights the cops. He punches a cop in the face. all right, he's probably going to get, they might really come down hard on him and give him a $1,500 signature bond. And for those of you, a signature bond, it's a PR bond. You don't actually put up the money. Like that's our running joke with Wisconsin. It's like they're really, all right, now you really made us mad there. You're going to have your $1,500 signature bond. Don't do that again. I'll tell you that right now, mister. So it's like, what are you doing up there? What's going on? So, when someone has a history, that's when we need to do something. That's be it murder, be it drunk driving, be it assaulting police officers, whatever.
I'm almost of the opinion, again, I keep evolving. I told you at the beginning I wasn't sure where I was, so I'm still evolving. But I'm almost of the opinion of, I'm definitely of the opinion at this point of either hold them or don't. But then if you hold them, as much as I'm against plea deals for the most part, I'm almost to the point of hold them within like 72 hours, take this deal and you can go away, or we'll take it to trial in some of these lighter cases or whatever. I don't know. But just move it along that way, perhaps. But this whole idea of...
Yeah, that is kind of an interesting point is, these trials seem to take longer and longer and longer. Be it like the workload of the lawyers, other cases coming in, the evidence, just stalling sometimes in cases, some defendants. And, then that really does become even more punitive if they can't put up the bail. They're sitting in jail for years and years because they couldn't put up, $1,000.
So maybe part of it is a quick plea.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? This
But
is probably
that really fair though? If they're
Yeah.
truly innocent and they plea down,
Right.
Is it fair to throw a $2 million bond on them?
no.
Well, it's almost coercion. It's almost like coercing them to plea.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
making
that's
offer
what
you
it
can't
is.
refuse.
A little bit.
It's like, so maybe this is a great topic for another sidebar, but the whole speedy trial concept, is that really even a thing anymore? I mean, maybe for smaller cases, I suppose it is, but we think of some of these big cases that have gone on. Some of these trials take 5 or 6 years to get through.
Yeah.
I mean, even some of the smaller cases, the so-called smaller cases of manslaughter or lesser serious crimes, if you will, the manslaughter, the reckless driving, these kinds of the drunk drivers. Some of these trials still take years to get done. And in the meantime, is that justice for for the families, for the victims and all of that? So, it kind of ties into what we're talking about in the sense that, obviously this is probably another episode to go down this rabbit hole, but yeah, where is speedy trial? How expedited is a speedy trial? How long should a trial really take? How long should justice take to be served?
I will say
Douchebag
you can get swift justice in Michigan. You can get it in St. Joseph County because Middleton will actually make deals on your behalf very quickly. The problem there is he's going to spend 3 days telling you a story and kill the speedy trial.
I can believe that.
So
You took
if
a
it
plea
wasn't just
deal
for
to
that-
listen to me talk about.
Facts.
He's gonna know your
I went
dad
to
and uncle
Woodstock,
and keep you.
1969. And Woodstock was great. I remember driving up there. It was I was in a GTO. You guys remember the GTO? Oh, great car. I'll tell you that. That's your punishment. You just have to. I love Judge Middleton. I'm gonna miss him so
We all
much.
do.
I
We all do.
love him to death.
That's a
He is
good soul.
great. But if you're in there, you having to listen to those stories, man, you might have to.
my point is, it's at least feasible to get speedy
yes,
justice.
it is. No, it really is actually. But I don't. Some things would have to be cleaned up, I think, for that to happen on a broader basis, Dan.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I just, but yeah, I mean, as we've gone on with this discussion, though, I'm not seeing a point in setting a bond for pretty much anything.
I kind of, Dan, I came in this just like you. I could see all sides of this argument, but I may not fully be there, but I'm definitely swaying over to that direction as well.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you guys need to move back to 17th century England. Because that's kind of what you just described.
Oh, I'll just pack up and drive there tonight.
I'll just,
How does that work?
I'll take my DeLorean and we'll go back to the future.
Bring Middleton with you while you're at it.
Well, you know
he'd
what?
love it back there.
He would. I'll
Well,
tell
no
you
guy,
that.
you can stay with him.
If
He
they-
could
if
be an
they
entertainer for the king.
You'll
If
never
they
be short of
fix-
any stories on the road.
Yeah. If they fix the speedy trial part, I think it might work. But I don't know.
Oh, good heavens.
Go back to stuff. Bailey
17th century.
always has to throw a little bit of a hard turn on everything. I love it.
Just a little bit of salt. A little bit of salt.
A little bit.
Just
A
needed
little,
bit of seasoning. Just a little
you're a
bit.
little
Beans are
spicy
salty.
today.
Hey, I think
got-
we all were. We all were.
Yeah,
A
it's
little
true.
bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in
I
a
could
good
tell.
way, in a fun way. We were really all primed and ready to do this episode.
You know, I bring the sugar here. I'm not spicy at all.
Yeah,
I'm
that
just
parole
very
hearing
nice.
got me kind of fired up a little bit. I don't know why, but. it's
Well,
good.
I'll tell you that the hearing. You know, when I think back on that Judge Stevens case, that's the one that I always refer to
Oh,
now
no.
because that's the one that. I was like, man, that lady lost her house. She took a gamble on her son,
Oh, no.
and she rolled a 7 with all the money on the table. That was the last. That was awful.
I hate when
that too.
I hate when
And-
innocent citizens have to pay for somebody else's crime.
Well,
Well,
and
she
maybe
didn't know
that's
anyway.
another kind of sidebar to the sidebar is, should somebody else be able to put up your bond?
That's usually the only way, right? Because they don't have access to their funds.
Well, when I say somebody else, I mean somebody, sometimes we have these hearings where you have to prove that the money that you had is legally acquired.
Correct.
And so, we should also have to prove, somebody else can post your money, your bond, but it should be your money.
right.
Maybe that's another thing that we should do. I don't know if we're going to do it, right? We probably should change it up a little bit. Of course, then that changes the whole bail bondsman thing and that racket that
But-
I think
and
Bailey
then-
said that's a big racket,
Yeah, it makes a lot of money.
And there wouldn't be the crowdfunding of the bail, if
Oh, well.
right.
the kid has to put up his own money and the lawyer can't pony. I'm still an hour back spinning on that one.
So, hypothetically, this is a legal question because lawyers have to think in legal ways.
Okay.
What is to stop me? Is it against the law for me to go to Dan, Mike, Lindsay, Ashley, and just say, hey, can you guys give me $25,000 each in cash? Let's go lower. Let's go lower so there's no IRS bullshit. I need $8,000 from all of you. That'll cover my bail. There's nothing illegal about that. Nothing. Now, I know you guys would never do that. However, the hypo, answer it. There's nothing illegal about that.
It's
So
against
if I-
Ellie's law because it would cut into her Trito fund.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah. Freya and Topaz and Buddy would not like that.
So
They would
I
be
think
very
you're
upset.
out.
Well,
But
this is what I
no,
have to
literally,
s-
is there? No, there's no law against.
There's no law against it.
There's no
well,
law
this is
against
what I have to say about Ellie.
Yeah, and she has a few things to say back, my friend.
Scratch.
Is she
Uh-huh.
tapping at my door right now? She's so.
She brought her
um,
friends.
To me, there's nothing illegal about that. So if am I able to post bond to the judge, as long as they know, like to go to you guys' point, as long as it's not coming from an illegal and nefarious purpose, particularly the crime that I was committing, like if I stole $300,000, I can't throw that up as collateral. That's my legal answer to you guys.
But
Uh-oh.
what purpose does that serve, though? Is my
Well, then I burn my relationship with Dan, Michael, Lindsay, and Ashley for the rest of my life. And you guys.
That's not a purpose. That's a result. Answer her question. What purpose did it
What
serve?
purpose? The purpose would be, hopefully, because by law, Eighth Amendment, you guys seem to want to have like an on-off switch to the Eighth Amendment. I'm totally against that. Like you're saying,
What do you
bond
mean
or
by
no
that?
bond.
No.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
Explain yourself.
Yeah.
What do you mean about we want an on-off switch for the 8th?
Because
Yeah.
you guys were saying you either get a bond, you get released, or on $0, or we're going to hold you because we think you're a risk to the community. However, we determine that to be.
So what does that have to do with the 8th?
Well, that would be the protection that provides everybody a bond hearing that is not excessive or punishing. What my argument is, well, now a judge is just subjectively deciding, as they already do, what a charge is, and that absolutely you do not get a bond. Whereas in the old style, the judge had to determine, well, for typically this type of charge, I will give the defendant the opportunity, because they could be innocent. These are all defendants who are presumed innocent. We have to go from that kernel of truth, guys. We have to go from that kernel of law truth. And then talk about the Eighth Amendment, which is why this is here. This is why I brought this up very early on in the conversation. The purpose of this, to put this into context, bail into context, is to prevent an overreaching government. So when you put it in that context, I don't like this on-off switch of bond, no bond. I want there to be a hearing, a full hearing. And yes, they get that hearing under the Illinois system right now. And if you notice, you replay this back, I was like this with my glasses off, like looking up, because I was looking at, okay, they could appeal for like this reason, but would it go to the constant, like, is this, because I really don't know the answer to this. But my positionality on this right now is I like our current system where we do give people the opportunity for, if they committed potentially first degree or accused of a very egregious crime, if they can post that money and they're showing up every day, and I would say most people do, some skip bail, and guess what? Your bonds bailman's going to be on your butt. You're going to have a freaking bounty hunter on your butt because they're going to want to get paid. And I don't know, we're going to find you. But
Bailey, we're not against the Eighth Amendment. Eighth Amendment is about excessive bail and cruel and unusual punishment.
And I think it's cruel to say no bond or bond. There's no middle ground. It's on or off. There's no gray. Absolutely not. That's not how this is done.
I don't think the question is bond or no bond. I think the question is release or not release.
Okay, I
Okay.
got.
Well, let's do this. We've gone a little bit over. Why don't we go around the board and clarify where our positions are after this discussion? Okay, I'll start. I told you I went in with this not exactly knowing where I was. I'm coming out of it with this. The 8 tells us no unreasonable excessive bond. It doesn't guarantee you one. So where I'm at right now is bond, or rather release or hold, depending on the person's criminal history. And, if you're going to release, mega conditions, especially if there's a serious crime. And if they screw that up even one little iota, then it's a hold. And to me, this helps avoid problems with the 8th because it removes the ability to argue whether or not that bond was excessive because there wouldn't be one. Yep. So for me, that would actually clear that up a little bit. That's where I'm at. Michael?
Pretty much that's exactly my position on this right now. Couldn't have said it better.
All right. Lindsay?
I think I'm more confused than I was when I started this.
Welcome to Sidebar.
That's a win.
Yeah, I agree.
That
I
is.
think people should have an opportunity to not sit in jail for 2 years while they wait for their case to resolve.
Yeah.
Is the monetary piece the most ethical way to do it? No, but I don't know that we have a way right now to solve for X there. So I guess I don't have a good answer, and I have a lot to think about tonight.
All right. Ashley?
Okay, we started this with first degree murder. I'm standing behind my point on that. And to reiterate my point, that intentional murder should not bond shouldn't be granted, and that unintentional murder, there might be a bond because there's a less risk of flight risk. Now we went into a whole nother we went into a sidebar on the sidebar, and applying this to all cases. And what Dan said does make sense to me in regards to the Eighth Amendment, because the Eighth Amendment just says you can't give excessive bail or cruel and unusual punishment. Bailey, I know you think that not giving bail is cruel, but bail is not a right. And that's kind of where I stand overall.
All right. Bailey, finish it off. Last word.
So, what I would pose to my lovely friends and colleagues, I love going sidebar with all of you, and to the viewers out there, what is the cost of liberty? What does it mean to you? Because that's really what we're talking about here. Because that's really the question that this comes down to, guys. We're talking about bail, and what we did was, hey, we went with a really serious charge. People who are accused of very serious charge, and bail. But the real question is, what kind of system and world do you want to live in? And the reason why we have an Eighth Amendment is because we learned from, 16th century England that, folks could be accused of a crime and they didn't have this excessive bail thing. You could just essentially be imprisoned before even actually having your proper due process. So to me, this debate is really about that, and what kind of world we want to live in. But I guess that's what I would be asking you is what is the cost of your liberty? Particularly, let's say if you're accused of a crime that you just know you didn't do. And there's right now in pretrial, there's a lot of evidence that makes you look really, really bad. Goes before a judge, you have your bond hearing, and in the state of Illinois since 2023, the Illinois legislature and the governor has agreed, and the people of Illinois have agreed, this is the system, we want this to do, and judges have to listen to that system. Now a judge has to look at this in a very narrow sense and say, well, based on this, gosh, I got an election coming up too, by the way, in about 8 months. Am I going to lock this guy up, or am I going to let him out with no bond? I think that's too restrictive. I think the beauty of our system is that judges have to look at things holistically. It's a human enterprise. It's not just a legal enterprise. I say that a lot here. And like Ashley brought up, I'm going to use your argument against you. You have to look at the severity of the crime, the history, all these elements, and that's what judges do. That's why we elect these people to do the thinking for us. And they have to grapple with very complex things. And I love it that a judge has the flexibility to be like, for this crime, I think this is severe. You don't make a lot, you work at Whataburger. Or this guy, you work for Intel, you make this much. I think for this crime, to make you accountable, to hold you, I think $100,000 is appropriate for you. So that is my take, and I really appreciate your indulgence. I always love going sidebar with all of you. Thank you.
I lied. I get the last word because I do have one little counterpoint that I'm going to give you. And that's this. You just brought up the idea of some guy innocent didn't commit the crime. Shouldn't he have the right to get out? I would then say this. Let's say it was a murder one, a $2 million bond. Is it fair that he has to give up $200,000 of his hard-earned income to pay the 10% to get out when he's an innocent man? There's the counterpoint. More to think about.
That's right. That's a good ending right there. Great ending.
There you go. Per our usual arrangement, we solved nothing, but boy, this was a good discussion. And
Yeah.
I hope everybody
I
out there
loved
enjoyed it as well.
Well
And
played.
let's do this again sometime, maybe next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Is
Sounds
it Pacific or specific?
It's
one of
specific.
those.
It's specific time.
Specifically at 5 o'clock, yes.
Specifically Pacific.
So we'll do that. And tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern. No, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. There we go. Know your times, Daniel. We'll be back here live for our... Stop it. for for our 1 year anniversary live show. Tomorrow will be 1 year that this channel's been around, and look at where we are now. And if
right.
you're a channel member, join us 45 minutes early because I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about comets or aliens or something like that. So that'll be a hoot too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Spooky.
I got to gather up the info for that. All right. We'll see y'all guys all tomorrow. Hopefully, please do join us tomorrow morning. In the meantime, have a good night. Take care. God bless.
Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.